Greetings to all and welcome to another of our monthly Q&As with Jim McCarty. My name is Jonathan Tong and I'm facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found in the list of study groups at the L&L Research website shown on your screen. We do also have a Facebook group and we do meet on Zoom twice a week, Tuesdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time, Saturdays 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. You don't have to live in Seattle or anywhere near Seattle to join our Facebook group or our Zoom sessions. Anyone who's interested and available is welcome. Just contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com to get on our mailing list. We send out emails once a week with Zoom links and information on what we'll be talking about that week. We do also have a YouTube channel where we keep recordings of our podcast episodes and recordings of previous Q&As with Jim McCarty. Just go to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to get notifications when we upload new videos, and contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com if you would like to join any of our Q&A sessions with Jim. Otherwise, as always, we are blessed and thankful to be able to have some time to spend with our good friend Jim McCarty. Talk about the law of one and how to live it in our daily lives. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing great. We're getting some warmer weather. Going to melt this snow, I hope. And as I said before, I have a wonderful little kitty here now, and she brings a lot of joy into my life.
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. Yeah, congratulations. And the name of the kitty is what?
Mystical joy.
Nice, or MJ for short. Yeah, looking forward to seeing and learning more adventures between the two of you. Otherwise, I know that you discovered something recently that you wanted to share a little bit with our viewers that they haven't seen before. And it is, well, do you want to go ahead and tell us the story about it?
Yeah. Well, there's a little backstory to it that you probably think is humorous. I was actually looking for a story that came from my high school days in the Kearney Daily Hub. I lived in Lexington, Nebraska. I was born in Kearney, but 35 miles away, I lived in Lexington. And our high school football team was playing Kearney, a Class A team. We were Class B. And after we made a touchdown, I got back there, and instead of throwing a pass or running for an extra point, I drop kicked it because my coach had noticed that I was able to do that. And so I made the extra point. We lost 10-7. But the Kearney Daily Hub said that Jim McCarty resurrected the ancient drop kick. And so I was looking for that paper. I was looking for the quote. I never found it. But what I found was Carla's autobiography, which I did not know existed. And it covers a lot of things that she was writing about in preparation for writing a Wanderer's Handbook. But there's a lot more in there. She was an Episcopal Church member. She was the head of the Episcopal Church at Calvary Church, where we were later married. She cooked for over 200 people frequently. And then she also talked a lot of things about her personal life, how things were going with Dawn at that time, how the channeling session were going, and how different people who came here to where we live now in Anchorage were part of a new meditation group, and that they were some of the best people they ever met. So, or she ever met. So it covers a lot of ground, but I do not remember reading it. I mean, I probably did over, somewhere in the last 10 years, but reading it has been such a joy because I see so many things that we went through together, and I remember those. But so finding that, there are so many quotes in there that are so inspirational. She was such a writer. She had a special feeling for getting her heart into it and also her mind. She was very intelligent. So it's been a blessing. And I've read through it a couple of times now. Probably read through it again too. I think eventually Gary and Trish and Austin hadn't heard about it. So I just happened to have 2 copies of it. So I believe it's going to be on our website. And I don't know when, in the next month or so.
Yeah. Yeah, super looking forward to seeing that. And you did send me a couple of snapshots of a couple of passages that you wanted to share with folks on Zoom and with our
Oh, yeah.
viewers. Can
If
I
you'd
go
like, I'll
ahead
hear
and
him.
share a couple of those? Let me go ahead and set up the screen share again. The first one I would assume is like near the beginning, somewhat of an introduction. Would you like to read this for our viewers, Jim?
Yeah, it looks like our pictures are covering part of the message.
Oh yeah. If you use your cursor, but just put the arrow somewhere in the black top of the black rectangle, then you can click and drag it out of the way. I do it all the time. Are you able to do that?
Am I dragging the picture or the quote?
No, the quote will stay on the screen, but where you see all of our
Oh, I
images
see it.
on
Yeah, I
the
just got
camera
it
thing,
done.
you can
Okay, thank
drag.
you.
Yeah, just move us out of the way.
Okay. When I decided to write this volume, I based that decision on my ability to rise early and dedicate a certain amount of time from 5:30 to 7:30 in the morning to the pleasant task of talking to wanderers. For over a year, I had intended to begin this work, but there was never enough time to work on it. I had to carve out that time of my sleeping hours. But it has felt right to do this, as I have the inner feeling that wanderers everywhere are hungry for information about their lots, about how to deal with the feelings of isolation and alienation, how to get on track with their destinies. My heart goes out to these seekers, many of whom have passed through our portals over the years. In this first chapter, I will tell you my story, such as it is, for I, too, am a wanderer. I can honestly say to each seeker, take courage. The spiritual vocation is possible within this tight wound world of ours. It is possible because we have each other to love and to be loved by. It is possible because we thirst and hunger for love. And love itself is curled around each sheet of paper, tucked into every bill and advertisement, and wrapped about our deepest heart. If we but persist in listening deeply, love will call us to itself in every moment.
What a beautiful passage. And is that like on the first page? Is that near the
It's
very
about
beginning?
5 or 6 pages in.
Oh, wow. Yeah, beautiful. And I can see what you mean. She's got really a beautiful way with words, and you can see her heart like right there on the
Yeah,
screen in the words. And
she had a
it's
big
nice.
heart.
This is literally a picture of the page you took with your phone, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's what it looks like in the text.
Yeah. All of the information that she was talking about that was going to be part of a Wanderer's Handbook was italicized like this. Now, she didn't use italics for other things in her personal life that were going on.
All right. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So this was the what she wrote in here was sort of the preamble. It was what eventually became the Wanderer's Handbook.
Yeah. These were written in 1993 and 1994, and the Wanderer's Handbook was published in the year 2000.
Oh, so it took a while. Nice. About how many pages in that notebook? Like roughly, like you can you use your fingers to show like how thick it is, or you could
Um,
hold it up to the
I've got
camera
one
if
right
you've
here.
got it.
It's about an inch and a quarter, but she only writes on one side of the page.
Oh,
So it would be
interesting.
about 3/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch, I guess, if you
Okay.
had both pages, the size of the page written on.
So not that much necessarily. I was picturing something like thicker.
Yeah. Well, the Wanderer's Handbook, of course, was huge, but
Right.
this
That's
was,
why I was saying. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is just a preparation.
Yeah. Well, this is probably more of her personal stories as
Right.
opposed to the Wanderer's Handbook, which is a lot of teachings about energy centers and such.
Yeah. Yeah. She was, as I was telling you beforehand, she was a member of the Calvary Episcopal Church downtown, where we eventually were married. But she was also the head of the Episcopal Church Women, and she cooked for 200 people every now and then, and went down on Wednesdays to clean the kitchen, keep it in good shape. And they had a lot of other meetings down there that she cooked for and was part of.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah. And you know what? I'm sorry. I was thinking of Living the Law of One when I was talking about her writing about energy centers rather than the Wanderer's Handbook. Folks who are on the Zoom call did want to encourage you. If you have any follow up questions on anything you'd like to ask Jim about this, feel free to raise your hand on the camera or use the raised hand icon, and I'm sure Jim would love to hear your questions. Otherwise, if it's okay with you, Jim, I had one more slide I wanted to look at that had
Okay.
interesting passage on it. Do you want to read like the part that you
Okay.
circled squared?
I know what I want to tell people in this book. I want to call people to the suffering of life with great joy and thankfulness for it all. I want to say, come, Live a life in faith and hope. Come. Sow seeds of eternity in the everyday moments of now and again. Come. Let love heal you. Come. Rest in the commonality of humankind and join in knitting up the redemption of the earth's sphere at this millennium. Come. Assist with joy the birthing of a new age.
Yeah, so beautiful, so inspirational. And this comes about where? Is this beginning, middle, end?
This is about 2 pages after the first quote.
Oh, okay, soon after. Yeah, super inspiring. And I can't help noticing the text that's underneath it, which seems to have a very different tone to it. It's interesting that these two would be like side by side on the same page. Would you mind reading what we can see at the bottom of that picture?
Okay. Um, I was a basket case when Don initiated a relationship with me. I had little self esteem coming out of such a beleaguered marriage. And Don's seemingly callous retraction of the proposal had hurt me deeply as well. He was also quite emotional. She had some typos, emotionally crippled. He told me at one point, early point, that he had been flirting with suicide pretty seriously for a few years prior to taking me to his heart. So Carla had just come out of a relationship with a fellow who cheated on her 7 times. And eventually he ended up out in, he was trying to evade the draft and went to Canada. So he called Carla back to see, well, I can't find a job here. Could you come and support us? And so Carla, remembering for better or for worse, as part of the marriage ceremony, went out to Canada and got a job as a librarian in the Simon Fraser University and had 13 people working under her. And then eventually, this fellow asked her for a divorce. And she said, yeah. And he said, but you have to go back to Kentucky. She said, I have a beautiful job here. I'm earning a lot of money. No back, no divorce. So that was the relationship. And Don's seemingly callous reaction to a proposal had hurt me deeply as well. Actually, Don had asked her to marry him. But after he was leaving to go to work as an Eastern Airlines pilot, his hand on the door kind of made Carla think maybe he didn't want to marry after all. So she said, if you still want to marry me when you come back from your flight, let me know. And when he came back, he said, well, I'm glad you gave me that chance because I don't think I want to be married. But what they did instead was, I'm forgetting the name. It's a Scottish habit, way of tying the knot. They had a broom and they put it out in the hall, and they both they held hands. They jumped over the broom, and that signified basically in their minds they were married.
Wow. That was roughly what year?
Oh, let's see. That was before I knew them, so it probably was in 1972 or three.
Oh, that
Yeah.
long.
She was married from 64 to 68 to this fellow whose name I will not mention. He's still alive.
Yeah, that's okay.
um, so it has to be like 72 or 73.
Wow. Okay, I didn't realize it was so long before the raw contact.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then on the part of he was flirting with suicide pretty seriously a few years prior to taking Carla to his heart. This is my opinion. I think, like all wanderers, well, most wanderers, he did not feel he belonged in this world. He said, in fact, this is an insane asylum. And I don't think he wanted to be here, but he thought, maybe I'll kill myself or maybe I'll stay. I had to come here for a reason. And so he stayed to see the reason. And fortunately, that helped the raw contact to come into being.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Gregory, I saw you had your hand up a minute ago. Did you want to ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, Jim, cannot thank you enough for sharing these two so intimate and details that we hadn't heard before. I love Carla's writing. I've been, moving through the Wanderer's Handbook, and it's, poetic in so many ways. And boy, these two passages are even more so, and personal. And just to hear your take on it. So just can't thank you enough for sharing this. As you know, we didn't get to know you, Don and Carla. I didn't get to know the three of you previously. So to be able to reach back in time and see these is wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how I feel and how I'm guessing all of us feel here. So thank you so much, Jim, for sharing this with us and allowing us to look into that very deeply personal and, in this case, very painful part of Carla's past. And I think folks who read her book, Living the Law One, where she talks more about her past, will find that she went through some really tough experiences, traumatic experiences, starting as a very young girl. And
yeah.
in this part, certainly in Dawn's case, interesting relationship. I think probably the most interesting thing is that he had thought about suicide, because I certainly had no idea that he had thought about it before he did actually commit suicide in 1985 or whenever that was.
84, November 7th.
84. So to realize that it was something that had been in his mind before probably gives some insight into how that fifth density friend perhaps was able to access that and capitalize that. And
oh yeah, I don't think Don's finger was the only one on the trigger, but the desire to do that was what made it possible.
Yeah, well, an interesting story about the broom, because as you have said many times before on these Q&As, the two of them, all three of you, I'm sure, but particularly Don and Carla, they had a very close mystical time-space connection that I'm sure that jumping over the broomstick was something that was very, very strong and binding in time-space, if not space-time. Did you have any other thoughts you wanted to share on this, or did anybody else on the Zoom call have any questions they wanted to ask?
I don't. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions you've got, though.
Yeah, if you don't mind, let me go ahead to the chat window. I saw Gina had a question, and then Brent had a question. Gina, do you want to go ahead, unmute your mic and ask?
Hi, Jim. Thank you for being here.
There you are.
And we thank you for everything that you have done for us. Recently, somebody asked me, I was in a situation and they said, be mindful. And then I pause and I'm like, be mindful of what exactly? It's like I thought we think we know something, but sometimes we really don't. So I was thinking if you could like tell me, when you're mindful, how do you do it?
Well, my thought about being mindful is to really feel the present moment, whatever you're experiencing. Because as Ross said, there are no mistakes. And if you're confused about something that's going on, don't just walk away from it. Or if you're angry, don't just walk away from it. Deal with it, because it's the way you can grow. And a lot of times, the best way we can grow is to deal with a difficult situation. That kind of catalyst gives us an opportunity to resolve whatever difficulty or confusion we've got with ourselves or with somebody else, and to move forward on our spiritual journeys. Third density has that veil of illusion where we don't see the unity of all things, the creator within everyone and everything. So the more we can be mindful about what's going on in our life, the more that we can feel the truth about what is one, the creator. If we're having a difficulty with ourselves or somebody else, we're having a difficulty with the creator. We're giving the creator a way of knowing itself. We can know ourselves better too by dealing with it, using that catalyst and moving forward on our spiritual journeys. There are no mistakes.
Beautiful question, Gina. Thank you for asking. Did you have any follow-up questions on that?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
Brent, I saw you had a question. Do you want to unmute your mic and ask?
Sure. Hi there. Hi there, everybody. I just have this fascination with whales. I was just, reading about a type of whale that where the females in the group sympathetically lactate when one of the females has a new little one. And so this adaptation is just remarkable to me. does Ra or Quo ever discuss whales' consciousness, what they are?
Ra never did, but I think there have been some quote channelings where whales, dolphins, and porpoises are mentioned as possibilities of third density entities. And they're moving forward a little quicker than most of the humans are on this planet in the fourth density.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
Brent, if you don't mind my saying, I believe in our podcast episode on Atlantis, we looked at a passage where Quo talked about whales having their evolutionary history be interrupted by Atlanteans. I believe it was Atlanteans who merged consciousness with whales. I'll go ahead, see if you can find that passage in there. And if you don't see it, message me and I can share it with you. It is fascinating for sure.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Let's see, Jim, if you don't mind, I had a couple questions that were sent in advance by folks from our Seattle Law of One Facebook group. Brian actually asked this question last month, I believe. Didn't get a chance to ask it. He's asking, did you speak much at all when living in solitude for so long? How did you express the blue ray living as a hermit? Sincerely, a hermit. Brian, I believe, lives somewhat of a hermit-like existence currently.
Well, I do live alone most of the time, but I also talk to myself. And sometimes I crack myself up. But we have channeling meditations here from September through May, usually through May, sometimes only through April, on the second and fourth Saturdays of each month. So I have a chance to meet a lot of beautiful seekers of truth, just like you, and talk to them, listen to them, and have a great time. Sometimes we have our homecoming. We used to have our homecomings here, but now we have them in Terrapin Hill, which is about an hour and a half drive. So I get to meet a lot of people there too. And this year I think we're going to have 80. Last year we had 68. Wow. And when we used to have them here, there were 40 people, sometimes in May, and most of the time we had them in September. So I got to meet a lot of folks there and talk to them. I have people that come by to visit me from time to time that used to be part of our channeling meditations. So I do like solitude. I was born an only child, and I think that was the reason that I was able to live in the woods of central Kentucky off the grid for 6.5 years by myself and have a great time. But I had people come visit me there too. Sometimes they were neighbors, sometimes they were friends from many years gone by.
I think that's what he was referring to. I think he was referring to when you were living off the grid.
Oh,
do you have
okay.
any more thoughts to share as far as how you were able to express blue ray, or if that was a thing for you at that particular time period?
Well, like I said, I did have neighbors that came up to visit me, but in the morning, I didn't go to work until about noon, and I would meditate, and then I would write in a journal the thoughts that came to meditation. And I think that my little kitty just landed on the floor. But they jump on the floor, it hits so hard with their back legs, it sounded like a hammer hitting the floor. Anyway, when I was writing, I would feel, the blue ray opening up and giving me some thoughts. And I would write those down and meditate on them, and then write some more down. So in those days, I was using a manual typewriter, and I would type out my thoughts in green ink, if that makes any sense to you at all. The green, is the heart rate. So that was what I was doing there. But I did have neighbors there too. In the fall, when there was time, they grew a lot of tobacco in Kentucky in those days. And my athletic ability in high school turned out to be a way I could earn money, because I got paid cutting tobacco. There were 6 stalks of tobacco that went on every wooden stick that would be hung in a barn to cure. And so I got paid 7 cents a stick, and I could cut 1,300 sticks a day. So I earned a fair amount of money. And so I got to talk to the people that were hiring me before and after the cutting, and my neighbors down the road. I meet with them now and then because they were really great folks. Almy Mullins and let's see. Anyway, I've forgotten all the names, but I would get together with them every now and then because I cut tobacco for them.
That was how long ago? That was roughly what
From
year?
1974 through the end of 1979.
And you were about how old at that time?
I was about 25 years old at the beginning. I just gotten out of college in Gainesville, Florida. I'd had a master's degree program in childhood education.
Wow. So beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all that. And Brian, I hope that answers your question. Had another question from Jim W., who says, I've been pondering the Earth in full fourth density and how that will affect things like seasons, cycles, and weather patterns. Will there be a need for 4 seasons, wet and dry seasons, tornadoes, typhoons, and all that other fun stuff? Also, where there will still be abundant second density entities? How does that work?
At the time we were in the raw contact, Ross said that planet Earth was already in the fourth density, and that those fourth density vibrations were helping those who were trying to be service to others. They had the desire to be of a positive polarization. It was helping them to do so. And it was also helping the negative entities to do what they were doing because the creator blinked at neither the light nor the dark. So as far as we know from the raw contact or anything from quo channelings, there still will be seasons. But when the eventual movement into fourth density is complete, which Rob said couldn't be predicted just 100 or 700 years because our population was so volatile, at that time, there won't be any more third density entities because the new fourth density entities from Earth and other third density planets here would not know how to shield themselves from being seen by a third density entity. And if they, as an advanced being, could be seen by third density, that would be too much asked. It wouldn't allow the third density being to do the work that they would need to do. They would say, oh, I'll just be positive like you. It's important to make that choice for yourself and not have it given to you like a feast upon a table.
Yeah. Really trippy to contemplate for sure, and probably above any of our pay grades really to dwell on. But it's a great question, Jim W. Thanks for asking, and thanks for Jim for shedding some light on that. I see Gregory had a question in the chat window. Do you want to go ahead and ask your question, Gregory?
Yeah, Jim, I'm really excited to be attending homecoming in May
that's
for
great.
the first time.
Yeah.
I've seen so many people talking about it, and it looks like a wonderful event. Can you briefly describe if there's going to be any conscious channeling sessions that typically happen at homecoming and different types of sessions that the participants and attendees lead there?
Yeah, last year we did have a channeling session. Gary, Trish, Austin, and I were the instruments, and everybody that attended, all 68, were present. So there will be another session like that. And I believe they'll probably do the same thing they did last year. I think everybody who attends can write a question that they would like to ask and put it in a box. And then before the session, I guess Gary, Trish, and Austin, I don't remember doing it myself last year. They'll go through it and pick out the questions to be asked.
And if I can ask, can you just give some examples of the other sessions? What else happens at homecoming? What sorts of other things happen that attendees lead in terms of presentation?
Well, any attendee that wants to and has a topic they would like to talk about can make a presentation. That's basically what homecomings are. They're focused on the attendees and what they really feel is important. And if you feel something that's important in your life and you know a little bit about it and you want to share it with others, then you can make a presentation. And so I don't even remember how many presentations we had because there were 3 different places where presentations could be made. There was the pavilion, and there was a farmhouse down the road, and then I think there was another open space. So there will be all kinds of presentations.
Super fun. Having attended a few of these gatherings, I can tell you, Gregory, they utilize what's called open space technology, where there is no set schedule of specific presentations in advance. It is, as Jim said, determined by whoever shows up. So they set aside at least 3, maybe 4 blocks of time each day for maybe an hour to 2 hours. And people are invited to share something they would like to do. It could be a presentation, or it could just be a meditation, or it could be healing, or it could be somebody just saying, I want to hear about, I want to learn about, I want to talk about just a general topic, and whoever wants to can do that. So it's a wonderful opportunity for all to teach and all to learn.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing you.
Indeed. I did see Claudel had a question in the chat window, but before we do that, if you don't mind, Jim, Dan had a follow-up question that kind of relates to what Gregory was asking about. And Dan's question is, what does channeling feel like to you? Is there an energetic pressure in your head, or do you experience something else?
I think different people, in our case, Gary, Trish, Austin, and I, have different ways of perceiving, and Carla also. Some people perceive a word by word transmission of information, maybe feeling the presence of, maybe your third eye has a little bit of a feeling of being intensified, or maybe your heart is opening more. In the early days, there were conditioning, what the Confederation called conditioning, where the mouth would open and close and the tongue would motions like that, but that's not present these days. So sometimes people get word by word, or phrase by phrase, which is basically the way I get it. Some people, like Carla, I know for sure, and I think Austin said too, that they get a ball of concepts and they just start unraveling the ball. And you just trust that what's coming out is what's needed to come out. And I know Carla always said, even though she channeled some of the longest, most inspiring sessions that I've ever read, that she never got it all. There was more. She always felt that she had forgotten something. So I think you can go word by word, phrase by phrase, or these concept balls, which are beyond me.
Yeah. So how does it feel in your head? How does it feel in your body compared to your normal waking consciousness feeling?
Well, my body doesn't really have much of a response. In my head, concepts and words come, and if I didn't know I was channeling, I would think, well, that's something I'm thinking about. But because if I just go ahead and speak them the way that I hear them, then I discover there's something more than what I was thinking about when I started. So I just have to do like what Carla said, hang my ass out over the line and just go with it. Have faith that what that's supposed to come out is going to come out.
Wow. Yeah, and thank you so much for doing that. And thank you to Gary, Trish, and Austin also for the commitment that you show and putting your asses out on the line every month on humanity's behalf. It is not unappreciated. I saw Claudel had a question you wanted to ask in the chat window. Claudel, you want to go ahead and ask? You'll have to unmute your mic first.
Yes. Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Hey, Jim. Really nice being here with you and sharing some time. I've been looking forward to those Q&A. My question, how do you discern when continued metaphysical exploration is a form of sacred initiation versus a subtle avoidance of incarnation and responsibility? And what inner signal tells you it's time to integrate rather than seek further? Thank you.
Could you repeat the first part of your question? I didn't quite understand it.
How do you discern when continued metaphysical exploration is a form of sacred initiation versus a subtle avoidance of incarnation and responsibility?
Well, I think basically you just have to have faith that that path that you're on and you're seeking to be more of the creator and discovering more of yourself, that what happens on that path is meant to happen. As Ross said, there are no mistakes. So I think you just have to trust your intuition and get the feeling of what you're doing or thinking and go forward with it. It's a process of faith, like the fool Card number 22 of the Arcana, walking off the cliff and knowing that every step it takes has a firm foundation underneath it, even though it looks like it's a mile down below in the chasm.
I see.
Question, thank you.
Claudel. Did you have any follow-ups on that?
Yes, maybe the second part of the question. What inner signal tells you it's time to integrate rather than seek further?
Well, again, I think that is intuition, or you could see it as your higher self or your guide or your subconscious mind. There are all kinds of assistance available for each seeker of truth, like you are. And if you just ask when you have a question and wait to see what happens, see if a feeling comes to you or a thought or some coincidence, somebody's walking by and tripping and you need to help them up, that's your service. I think you just need to have faith it's going to come to you in one way or another.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Jim.
Well, thank you for your question. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you for the heart and sincerity behind it. I would imagine it's something that we've all gone through in some way at some point or another. So thank you for asking. I don't think I saw any other questions in the chat window. If there are, please go ahead and put it in there again and let me know. Otherwise, if it's okay with you, Jim, I had a couple questions that I wanted to ask, and they are related to a couple passages from the Raw Contact. Specifically, since this month is February and it is the month of the holiday known as President's Day, I wanted to ask about the entity known as Abraham Lincoln. He was mentioned a few times in the Raw Contact, and I haven't really looked at these passages in a little while, hadn't really thought about them, and would love to hear your thoughts on them. And again, folks on the Zoom call, feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions you wanted to ask. Otherwise, in session 26, question 15, the questioner, Don, I assume, says he was wondering if the one Abraham Lincoln could have possibly been a wanderer. Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect. The entity was a normal, shall we say, Earth being, which chose to leave the vehicle and allow an entity to use it on a permanent basis. This is relatively rare compared to the phenomenon of wanderers. You could do better considering the incarnations of wanderers such as the one known as Thomas, the one known as Benjamin. Questioner, thank you. Can you tell me where the entity that used Lincoln, Abraham's body, what density he came from and where? Ra, I am Ra. This entity was fourth vibration. So many little interesting nuggets of U.S. history that I don't remember ever reading about in my high school history classes. But yeah, interesting that Thomas, I assume was Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin, I assume was Benjamin Franklin, are identified here by Ra as wanderers. And yeah, the walk-in for Abraham Lincoln, certainly interesting. Any thoughts on that? I'm not aware of any other examples of walk-ins like this. Are you aware of any other ones, Jim?
No, Abraham Lincoln's the only one we ever discovered in the Raw Contact. There probably were more, but I don't know about them. And I think that earlier, it might have been later, Ross suggested that Abraham Lincoln was living a very difficult life. And I don't know what way it was difficult. It was before he became president. And that it was really difficult, but he didn't have any inclination towards killing himself. So one night in a dream, this entity that eventually walked in agreed to take over Abraham Lincoln's life path, to take all of the difficulties and to let Abraham Lincoln exist in a realm of, well, it would be similar to if Carla never came back to her body during the Raw Contact in the inner planes.
Right.
And so in that dream, then Abraham Lincoln agreed. And so the one that was the walk-in began to move forward in the life pattern that Abraham Lincoln couldn't travel anymore. And he became president. and became one of the most amazing presidents we ever had. And I don't remember the phrase, but after the war, the Civil War was over, there's something about with malice toward none and love for all. He just brought everybody together.
Really
And
fascinating. And I think I had another passage to share that I think is what you are referencing. This, I believe, is from session 35, question 8. Ross says, the one known as Abraham had an extreme difficulty in many ways and, due to physical, mental, and spiritual pain, was weary of life, but without the orientation to self-destruction. In your time, 1853, this entity was contacted in sleep by a fourth density being. This being was concerned with the battle between the forces of light and the forces of darkness, which have been waged in fourth density for many of your years. This entity accepted the honored duty of completing the one known as Abraham's karmic patterns, and the one known as Abraham discovered that this entity would attempt those things which the one known as Abraham desired to do, but felt it could not. Thus the exchange was made. The entity Abraham was taken to a plane of suspension until the cessation of its physical vehicle, much as though we of Ra would arrange with this instrument to remain in the vehicle, coming out of the trance state, and function as this instrument, leaving the instrument's mind and spirit complex in a suspended state. The planetary energies at this time were at what seemed to this entity to be at a critical point, for that which you know as freedom had gained in acceptance as a possibility among many peoples. This entity saw the work done by those beginning the democratic concept of freedom, as you call it, in danger of being abridged or abrogated by the rising belief and use of the principle of enslavement of entities. This is a negative concept of a fairly serious nature in your density. This entity, therefore, went forward into what it saw as the battle for the light, the healing of a rupture in the concept of freedom. This entity did not gain or lose karma by these activities due to its detachment from any outcome. Its attitude throughout was one of service to others, more especially to the downtrodden or enslaved. The polarity of the individual was somewhat, but not severely, lessened by the cumulative feelings and thought forms which are created due to large number of entities leaving the physical plane due to trauma of battle. There is so much to unpack in that passage. So many really interesting things to look at. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. For one thing, I think one of the things that stands out most to me as I'm reading this, aside from the parts that you mentioned already, is that this being was concerned with the battle between the forces of light and the forces of darkness, which have been waged in fourth density for many of your years. Sounds a lot like the thought wars or thought battles that have been mentioned before as these battles between positive, negative, light, dark forces and fourth density. Also, is kind of a continuation of the same battles happening in third density. Do you have any thoughts on that or how that might relate to this passage?
well, yeah, that battle has been going on for quite some time. And there's no winning or losing because the fourth density positive cannot give in any way, be put under the heel of the negatives. So they have to keep fighting. But the negatives also can't win. So it's something that goes on. And Ross said the benefit was that it takes away the possibility of nuclear annihilation on the planet, which I thought was a really good thing.
Yeah.
And
yeah, they also said it's only fourth density social memory complexes that take part in the battle because they're the only ones, aside from third, who they said lack the wisdom to refrain from battle.
Yeah, that's
somewhere in fourth density they figure out the need not to battle or grow out of the need for battle. But interesting how this part of our country's history seems to be part of that. What do you make of the karmic patterns? Accepted the honor duty of completing the one known as Abraham's karmic patterns. What do you think they're referring to there?
Well, all of us come into the incarnation that we are in now after making pre-incarnative choices of what we want to learn in order to be positively oriented at least 51% of the time and make the harvest to the fourth density of love and understanding. So I think that maybe Abraham Lincoln had made some choices, be like a college student signing up for too many classes, and he was starting to fail the classes, and he didn't know what to do about it. And that was the trauma that he was feeling that gave him a lot of just extreme illness or pain or emotional illness. But like Ross said, he had no intention of killing himself. So it was a real blessing for him, I'm sure, when the fourth density entity approached him in the dream and offered to take over all of that, to do it for him. And he probably said, "Oh, thank you. I'll be over here when you get done taking a nap."
I'll bet there are many incarnated on the earth now, possibly on the Zoom call, who would love to have somebody take over the rest of this job for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, really fascinating. And especially as it continues. That which you know is freedom, having gained acceptance, and this entities, all the work done by those beginning, the democratic concept of freedom in danger of being abridged or abrogated by the rising belief and use of the principle of enslavement of entities. I mean, obviously, we're still trying to deal with that here and now.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you've seen the local news, you know that there's racism at the highest levels in our country right now.
For sure. Yeah. 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 Do you think it would be fair to say that it is part of this planet's transition from third density into fourth density that we're being compelled or forced to balance any unbalanced karma that we're still carrying over from third density in so many ways? This whole thing about slavery and enslavement, not just in the United States, but I mean, in many different forms all over the world, but maybe most notable to us in the States, that this is part of why we're seeing what we're seeing, because we're being given one last chance to figure this stuff out, whether or not we believe in enslaving others or not.
Yeah, I think now that we're at the end of the last major cycle and the master cycle, that all the entities of both the positive and the negative natures are having a chance to make their harvest into the positive or negative fourth density. All the wars, all the disagreements, all the examples of racism, everything that's so troubling to us all. It's helpful for negative entities to have all this happening, that they can control others and separate from others. And for positive entities, it gives us a way of being of service to others that are being controlled, they're being enslaved. And so we can do whatever. We can donate to organizations that help. Well, many people don't believe in the climate change and too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So when there are tornadoes and hurricanes and anything like that, the Red Cross is an organization I donate to help people. You can have prayer groups like are held around the world, praying for peace. You can do something simple like I go to the grocery store and help somebody carry the groceries out if they're too old to do that. You know, whatever comes your way, dedicate it to the service of the Creator. Do what you can. Donate time, donate money, donate prayers. We can all do something to help. And this helps us in our own positive polarity. And seeing all as the Creator, even if they are doing the most heinous things around, they are the Creator, knowing itself better. So that this is just third density. It's an illusion because all is the Creator at all times. But here we don't see that. And because we don't see that, we have a chance to polarize our consciousness and to move into the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth density. And then at mid-sixth density, the polarity is given up. It's no longer used as a tool for moving forward. And both the positive and negative do that. The negative, when they get to sixth density, being wise as they are, having come from fifth density, see that in order to move forward, they have to see all as the Creator and not try to control some as something other than the creator and change their polarity. And so they do. And the illusion comes to an end, and all are one once again.
Which is why we're not allowed to see fourth density entities who know that stuff already. That would be kind of cheating, I guess, like you said. Yeah, I'm reminded, Quo has said so many times that the majority of the human population incarnated on Earth now came from planets like Maldek or Mars or Deneb that blew themselves up or were rendered uninhabitable by their third density inhabitants because they weren't able to see others as creator. They weren't able to see their planet as creator. Same thing in Atlantis on this planet. So, yeah, it's a real privilege to be given this chance to incarnate now and see if we can make better choices now to be able to see the planet as creator and not plunder it and pillage it as we have so many times in so many different ways. And see others regardless of their skin color or their gender or their sexual orientation as creator, as other selves. It's a great opportunity. I don't think I saw any other questions in the chat window. Am I missing anything, folks? Is there someone who had?
I think one just showed up on the
Claudel
screen.
has a question. You want to go ahead and ask Claudel?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, Jim, given that you've been at this for the better part of almost 5 decades now, I was wondering what you've learned about the potential cost of sustained contact with higher density intelligence, and how do you counsel people today who believe that they are developing their own channeling abilities? Is there something specific that we are romanticizing about it that you wish we understood differently?
Well, after all this time on my spiritual journey, I just do my very best to be of service to people however I can. The best service I can offer is my daily Camelot journal that I do in honor of Carla for all of the Confederation channelings that she did, and share it with whoever wants to come to our website and see the beautiful channelings and the questions like you ask. All seekers have asked so many questions over the years that have spoken to the heart of the reason for being here. So the Camelot Journal is my best service I offer. And then hosting the public channeling meditations from September through May, and being able to go down to Terrapin for the homecoming. And then just in my neighborhood, just doing what I can. In the mornings, I go out and get my newspaper, and my neighbor next door is about 83 years old, and he's not in too good a shape. So I take the paper up and put it on the porch for him. And then across the street, I have a neighbor that used to live there. I went to visit her yesterday at the care home she's in Mount Sterling, Kentucky. But I still fill up her bird feeders. She always loved to feed the deer and the squirrels because the bird feeders that we have, I have the same kind, are squirrel proof. So I put food on the ground over there. And, just do what I can in the neighborhood to help out. Because they're all the creator too. So, any services you can offer, great or small, in the middle, take advantage of what comes your way. Set your intention every morning, like I do, to try to be of service, and then just do what you can.
Any follow-ups on that, Claudel? Looks like you had a few questions there in the chat window. Did he answer all of your questions?
Yes, he did. Maybe one follow-up on this one specifically. On the cost part, I don't know how to frame that differently, but I'm assuming that not everything has been rosy, right? You have some difficulties, you have some challenges that you have to go through, even if with time, obviously, you've seen that as catalyst for you to process. Yeah, if you can touch on the cost over those 40, 50 years and how they have evolved from what it was 40 years ago to what you see as still a cost today.
Are you asking about physical costs on physical body or more like circumstantial catalyst?
Overall cost, I think from our standpoint is obviously like one of an amazing service, right? We are all here because of what Jim and Carla and Don managed to do. But I'm wondering about a part that we don't necessarily see, right? The difficult, if you can touch on.
Well, I I do a few things to try to stay in this world longer and to be of more service and continue what I've done. And one of them is to try to keep my physical body strong. So 3 days a week I do weightlifting, and each day I try to take a speed walk 1.25 miles and come back and do some stretching. And I also do some yard work when it's possible. And right now I can't do any yard work because my flower gardens are under snow, and but that's always a lot of work in the summertime, 2 to 3 hours a day. So, and then in the evenings, before I go to bed, I dance, and all this is to keep my body strong. And as far as my mind goes, I look for ways of being of service. And like I mentioned, a few, if my neighbors, what I try to do to help them. And I also have what I believe everybody has some part of, and that's called the dark side. And I think that all of us, from when we were a child, something happened in our childhood where we were told that we weren't smart enough or good enough or strong enough. And some part of us just couldn't take that, didn't know what to do about it. And that dark side kind of receded for a while. And every now and then it pops out with some inappropriate word or action. And I've had this happen. I think everybody does from time to time. And I say, well, that's not me. I don't want to do that or say that. And so I've got a little, I guess it's a paragraph long that I read every morning, thanking my dark side for being there and coming out of the childhood with those wounds. But, having those wounds remain and being ignored, the dark side of ourselves has to be strong enough to do that. And that strength, if we can ask that dark side of ourselves to blend that strength with our desire to seek the light, that we can both go forward into light more quickly than we either could do alone. So I just repeat that every morning, and that seems to make the day go much better. So basically, that's what I do to try to continue doing what I've done for uh, most of my life, probably 50 or 60 years of it by now, 50, I guess.
What a great example of what I believe we refer to as shadow work and inner work. Really appreciate that. Great questions, Claudel. Thank you for asking. I hope that answered your questions. I think we have time for one more question, and I believe Brent had a follow-up question on something you said a little while back. Brent, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Sure. Jonathan, are you referring to the one on climate change or the one on dual
Yes.
activated bot? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't. You can take your pick of whatever question you want to ask.
Okay. Jim, is there anything in the raw contact material that reduces or, reduces our narrative, our basic narrative about the cause of climate change, the physical cause of climate change, greenhouse gases, and so forth? Um, it, do, in other words, what's your experience of climate change? Do you still subscribe to that basic narrative of greenhouse gases?
I do, but there's nothing in the raw contact about that. I don't think that was a big problem at the time. I think it was probably just in the initial stages. But I think that when we use too much oil for cars and other businesses that run on oil or coal, in the Kentucky, they mine coal in eastern Kentucky, and there's a license plate that says coal runs the country. Well, it also puts CO2 in the air, which allows the air to hold more heat, and more heat can create a lot of problems for the uh, hurricanes and tornadoes and uh, things like that. So that's part of what's going on with the climate change, and most of the people, well, a lot of people, let's just say a lot of people, don't believe in that, and a lot of those people are in positions of government, and they're accelerating the use of oil, taking some maybe from Venezuela and other places and using it here. So hopefully that won't continue to hurt Mother Earth as it has in the past and is at the present. But there's certainly no guarantee of that.
Jim, could you comment on what Quo has said about it? Because it's true. I don't remember Ross saying anything about it, but I believe Quo has said more than a few times that what we experience as climate change or global warming has to do with energies from centuries and millennia of war and bellicosity, those energies being pushed into the Earth's crust and
yeah, that's
the
another part
necessity
of it.
of the Earth to release it in some form. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, the vibrations of war, the anger of the heart, have been inculcated into the crust of Mother Earth. And in order for Mother Earth to be able to accept the higher vibrations, the positive vibration of fourth density, she has to slowly release the anger in the crust through volcanoes, tsunamis, earthquakes, tornadoes. And although that is very traumatic for the places that it occurs, it keeps the planet from bursting into pieces all over the place.
So do you think both of those things, fossil fuels and this release of pent up heat from the Earth, have together are part of our what we experience as climate change?
Yeah, that's the nature of our reality right now, and that's something we all need to work for, however we can. Donate to organizations that are trying to relieve it, or pray for them, or do whatever you can. I don't know. It's not such a level of beyond imagination, and just we just have to hope that we can all graduate before things go too bad.
For sure. Brent, did you have any follow-ups on that?
That cleared it up quite well. So I like the blend. I did have that other question, but I'm happy to leave it go unanswered if there's something else to do.
Yeah, if you don't mind messaging it to me on Facebook or emailing it. I'm not sure if we have time for it today, but we will put it at the top of the list for next time.
Thank you.
Brett, yeah, and thank you. Thank you for asking that question. Regardless of how one feels about climate change, I would think we all agree that pollution is bad and that anything we can do to reduce polluting our air, water, and land with the coal, oil, and gas is probably good for the planet. Fred, was there something you wanted to add? Did you have a follow-up question you wanted to ask?
I just had a follow-up question for Jim. About and it's not necessarily about the climate change, but about the oil and gas and coal. I don't really know how to ask this, and it's probably a question you should ask at the beginning, but I don't recall Ross saying anything about this, but historically, I've noticed when oil became popularized in the late 1800s, we were at the peak of whale harvesting for oil in the world. We slaughtered tens of thousands of whales. And as we know now, we are kind of getting the concept idea that whales and dolphins and that may actually be third density beings that are very needed on this planet. Do you have any feelings that the switch to oil and the discovery of oil and the use of oil to cease harvesting of whales had anything to do with each other? And do you think maybe possibly the whales had their own calling to higher densities for help?
Well, I certainly don't know that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did have a higher calling to help out. And I really didn't know that slaughtering of whales was going on in order to power any kind of machine. But actually, I'm sorry to hear that. But,
yeah, it is very disheartening. I actually have a can of General Motors whale oil for differentials from the 1920s. Yeah. Oil was very, very big commodity for heating and for light and for lubrication. And with the advent of the Industrial Revolution, I couldn't imagine that we would have lasted another couple decades without an extinction event with the whales had we not discovered oil. And I wonder if the whales themselves actually had a part in us discovering in its use.
Well, like
That's
I say,
great question, Fred, and one we might have to save for another.
they could have, but I have no idea. What I
Yeah.
don't understand is why solar power isn't being used everywhere in the world. I have friends in central Kentucky. Everything they've got in their home is solar powered. At the end of the year, they can sell energy back to the power company.
Yeah.
Why aren't more people doing that? The sun, it's free.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
I do remember Ross saying at some point, we do have the technology to solve all of our problems. It's just that it is being kept by entities for their own service to self purposes. So I'm sure those entities don't want people to have free energy. They would really much rather to use it to keep us enslaved and such. Appreciate the question, Fred, and appreciate the answers, Jim. If it's okay with you, it does look like we are about at the end of our time, so it means I just have a couple more questions to ask you, Jim, and that, of course, is part of our pop quiz. Pop quiz is something we like to do at the end of our time together, just to end our sometimes serious discussions on a funner note and maybe look for Law of One connections in pop culture. As I mentioned in the beginning, since we are recording this in February and this is the month of the President's Day holiday, I thought it would be only fitting that we should have a pop quiz on U.S. presidents. Jim, I'm going to ask you 3 questions about past presidents, see how many you can answer correctly. Jim, go ahead and say your answer out loud so our viewers can hear in space-time. You who are watching this on video at some time in the near or distant future, say your answers out loud so we can hear you through time-space. You who are on the Zoom call, feel free to put your answers in the chat window. As always, points don't matter. If you had fun, you won. Are you ready for your first question, Jim?
I'm ready.
First question. Which president had the most pets living in the White House? Was it A, Calvin Coolidge, B, Warren Harding, C, Herbert Hoover, or D, Woodrow Wilson?
D, Woodrow Wilson.
D is a good guess. Correct answer is A, Calvin Coolidge. He had 29 pets. Most of which I believe were like normal dogs and cats, but he had a goose named Enoch, 2 raccoons named Rebecca and Reuben, a donkey named Ebenezer, and a bobcat named Smokey. And they all apparently lived in the White House. How many cats have you had over the years, Jim?
Carla and I had 19 together, and now I have a new one, so 20. And then I inherited some from a friend who passed away, so I had 6 more. And this past from December through February, I trapped 5 raccoons in my have-a-heart trap and took them across the river to let them go because one of them was trying to eat my goldfish. Actually ate a couple of them.
Wow. Fun fact. Apparently, Abe Lincoln, who we mentioned before, was the first president to keep cats as pets in the White House.
Really?
He had 2 tabbies named Tabby and Dixie. They were a gift to him from his Secretary of State. He loved animals in general, including dogs, pigs, and horses, but he held cats in especially high regard. When his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, was asked if her husband had any hobbies, her response was simply cats. The big question is, was that Abe Lincoln who loved cats, or was it the 4th density walk-in who loved cats? If Ross to believe, it was the 4th density walk-in, which is just really funny.
I've always thought cats were meditative, just in general.
Yeah, for sure.
And that they could perceive things around that I couldn't see.
For
Both
sure.
The cat that Gary and Austin leave with me, Ori, and my new little kitty, Mystical Joy, had been looking up in the air in the living room, staring at something. I don't know what they were looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. Quo said that cats were used as guardians for temples in ancient Egypt and all the way
Yeah.
back to Atlantis. And they're already in the archetypical mind as well. So there is definitely something cosmic and mystical about cats. Love dogs too. Are you ready for your second question?
I'm ready.
Who was the first left-handed president? Was it A, James Garfield, B, Rutherford B. Hayes, C, Chester Arthur, or D, Grover Cleveland?
B, Rutherford B. Hayes.
Rutherford is a good guess. Correct answer is A, James Garfield, who was our
You're sticking
20th.
on A all the time. That's no fair.
Well, you know, as
Except
they
for the next
say
one
in
won't be A.
baseball, good pitching beats good hitting. I'm just feeding you a diet of A's and fastballs here. No, apparently he was the first, and he was also said to be ambidextrous and could write in Greek and Latin with different hands at the same time.
At the same time.
Yeah. And since
Wow.
then, he was not the only. There have been quite a few left-handed presidents, including Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama were all lefties.
Well, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either until I wrote this quiz. Are you left-handed? Have you ever been left-handed?
Well, when I played baseball in high school, I was a left-handed batter, but I threw right-handed. I juggle, so I guess you could say ambidextrous.
Yeah, yeah. Fascinating. Must be some balance between positive and negative polarities, I'm guessing. Are you ready for your last question?
C.
C. Wait, are you speaking Spanish or are you giving me your answer?
I'm giving
Which
you your
president
answer.
publicly talked about seeing a UFO? Was it A, Harry S. Truman, B, Richard Nixon, C, Jimmy
Carter.
or D, Ronald Reagan?
Jimmy Carter.
Indeed, Jimmy Carter did. Do you know anything about that?
No, I just know that he saw a UFO.
Yeah.
I don't know if he followed up on it or not.
Carter and Reagan, apparently. One evening in 1969, 2 years before he became governor of Georgia, Carter was preparing to give a speech at a Lions Club meeting. He reported that at about 7:15 p.m., one of the guests called his attention to a strange bright white object about as bright as the moon that was about 30 degrees above the horizon to the west of where they were standing. It moved in their direction, but stopped behind a stand of pine trees some distance from them. The object then changed color, first to blue, then to red, then back to white, before appearing to recede in the distance. Carter felt that the object was self-illuminated, not solid in nature, and his report indicates that it was witnessed by about 10 to 12 other people and was in view for about 10 to 12 minutes before it passed out of sight.
Yeah. Well, I think Jimmy Carter was a great president, but I think after he left the office, he and his wife Rosalind went around the world to be of service to people in ways that nobody could really comprehend the power of. And I think that was his great service to this planet. I think he helped us while he was president, but most of the help came afterwards.
He's the best ex-president this country has ever had. No doubt about it. A beautiful soul, if there ever was one. Apparently, Ronald Reagan saw a UFO also. Are you aware of this?
No, I never heard of that before.
One night in 1974, Ronald Reagan, then governor of California, saw a UFO. He was on a small Cessna airport. There were 4 other persons on the plane, and the pilot of the plane said, the passengers called attention to the pilot, and the pilot said it appeared to be several hundred yards away. It was a fairly steady light until it began to accelerate. Then it appeared to elongate. Then the light took off. It went up at a 45-degree angle at a high rate of speed. Everyone on the plane was surprised. The UFO went from a normal cruise speed to a fantastic speed instantly. A week later, Reagan was talking about it to a person named Norman C. Miller. And Reagan said, "We followed it for several minutes. It was a bright white light. We followed it to Bakersfield, and all of a sudden, to our utter amazement, it went straight up into the heavens." And when Miller expressed some doubt, Reagan realized to his horror that he was talking to a newspaper reporter and shut up after that and never talked about it again.
Yeah.
But it is worth noting, in a 1987 speech to the United Nations, Reagan told everyone there, "I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world." Made similar comments to.
Well, when Don was flying for Eastern Airlines, one flight out west when he was heading towards Los Angeles, he and his co-pilot looked up above them. They were currently at 38,000 feet, and they saw something that must have been a UFO because it made a right angle turn, and we didn't have anything that could do right angles at that time.
Yeah.
He studied UFOs for 25 years. That's where the book Secrets of the UFO came from. He and Don and Carla.
For sure. Well, you might not know this either, but apparently Richard Nixon met a Venusian who was referenced by Ra. In session 24, question 19, Don asked, "I would be really interested to know if Dwight Eisenhower met with either the Confederation or the Orion Group during the 1950s or that time." Ra, I am Ra. The one of which you speak met with light forms which are indistinguishable from third density. This was a test. We, the Confederation, wished to see what would occur if this extremely positively oriented and simple congenial person with no significant distortions toward power happened across peaceful information and possibilities which might apprehend therefrom. We discovered that this entity did not feel that those under his care could deal with the concepts of other beings and other philosophies. Thus, an agreement reached then allowed him to go his way, ourselves to do likewise, and a very quiet campaign, as we have heard you call it, be continued, alerting your peoples to our presence gradually. Events have overtaken this plan. The name of this entity they're referring to appeared as a thought form is apparently named Valiant Thor, and was written about in a book called Stranger at the Pentagon. Have you heard of this book, Jim?
No, I haven't.
It's written by a guy who I believe was some sort of church clergy person, and I believe he's the only account we have of this entity. But apparently it is kind of as Rod described it, and apparently he showed up in what appeared to be a flying saucer, asked to be taken to the White House, eventually going through police channels, made it to the White House, did meet with Eisenhower apparently, and did meet with his vice president at that time, then Richard Nixon. And in this passage from the book, the author says, "I was taken to Val's quarters where I was briefed on world conditions as well as world personalities. We discussed topics such as the role of the United Nations and world affairs, the coming gasoline crisis," which was really a man-made scheme to successfully escalate the price of gasoline, "the role that Mr. Richard Nixon would be forced to play if he did not heed the constant warnings that he was receiving from friends from outer space, and a number of other subjects directly related to my own personal activities." Super interesting, but it does seem to call back to what Ra was saying about Eisenhower not feeling like those under his care could deal with these concepts in a positive way.
Yeah, I think, though, that he tried to make some sort of reparation for that in his last speech before he left office, warning people to be aware of the military-industrial complex.
Eisenhower, yeah, for sure. I do remember. I've seen that. And Nixon, as you may or may not remember, resigned in disgrace in 1972 after being caught planting listening devices at the Democratic Party headquarters.
Yeah.
Oh, we long for the good old days of 1972 and presidential accountability. We will save that discussion for another time. Yeah. Jim, thank you as always for being here. We are running a bit over time and appreciate your patience and, as always, being with us. Did you have any last thoughts, comments, reflections want to share with folks before we say goodbye?
Well, you know that I always think that this is the most impressive and inspiring gathering because we get together every month. And I've never gotten better questions than I get here. And the quantity questions is great, too. I always love talking about the law of one. And when people are asking the questions, I feel their heart. is the source of their questions, because each of us as positive seekers of truth are trying to open our heart in love and understanding at least 51% of the time to everyone around us, so that we can go together into the fourth density, or if we're wanderers, go back to our home, having accomplished our mission here. And I think that this is a little wanderer gathering, an MWG.
I see what you're doing there.
And I, from my heart to your heart, I have a connection that's going to last forever. And I love you all. And thank you for being part of my spiritual journey. I couldn't ask for a better family of seekers of truth.
We love you all so much, my friend, and cherish every single moment we have together. And we love hearing about Carla, too. We would love to see some more passages next time from her autobiography, if you have something to share. Thank you, my friend, for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. To all our friends at L&L Research, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. To those who took time out of their busy lives to join us on this Zoom call, thank you for all you've done, continue to do in service to others. And to you who are watching this video at some time in the near or perhaps very distant future, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. We are sending you our love light, and we are receiving yours. Until next time, in the love and light of the one infinite creator. Adonai. Namaste.